There is a version of your business worth millions of dollars, and there's one where your business is worth nothing. And 7 things separate those two. And I know this because I built a business from scratch and sold it for 7 figures. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you all 7 so you can find out exactly how close you are to the multi-million dollar version of your business and exactly what's standing in the way from you getting there. Because I guarantee at least a few of the things we're talking about are already costing you millions. So let's get into it.
So what is the easiest way to increase the value of your business?
Yeah, so let's say we want to add millions of dollars on. Okay. One of the first things you can look at is saying, all right, I'm going to increase the number of clients I have. That's a solid way of increasing the valuation of your business. Another way is looking at having a higher average transaction value, higher AOV, or some sort of back-end product that people could buy and ascend to. Those are both very solid. But this one right here, this is the fastest and easiest way to add millions of dollars of valuation onto your business, the higher purchase frequency. Okay. And think about why that would be the case. Why is this one so much better and so much more valuable than any of these other two? And again, I'm not saying these other two are bad, but this is better. It's like good, good, great. Good, good, great. All right. So why is that the case? Well, think about it like this. Every morning when you log in to your office, you start work for the day. If you have to start over at 0, that takes a lot of time and energy. Wouldn't it be nice if you instead had some sort of higher frequency type business model where people were on a subscription or some sort of recurring revenue plan where every day, regardless of whether or not you show up to the office, you have $5,000 or $10,000 worth of recurring revenue. So you don't have to be this dude who's like pushing the boulder up the hill every single time, every day that they log in. It's way better. Now, the second path here is, let's say you want to sell your business one day for millions of dollars. A potential buyer looks and they say, it's kind of risky for us. Remember, investors don't necessarily like risk. They're not like us entrepreneurs. They're thinking using different mindsets. They want to de-risk as much as possible. They want upside with little downside. And they said, hey, you know what? It looks like the revenue is a little floppy. We don't really know what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis versus some sort of recurring revenue type plan inside the business. It makes cash flow consistent, which de-risks it for a potential buyer who's going to pay big money for your business.
So practically, how do you implement that inside of your business?
Yeah. So one of the best ways to do this is look at where your customers have consistent problems, not one-time problems, but problems that renew on a regular basis. So as an example, let's say that you are teaching people how to get in shape. Well, that's a business like any other business where customers have problems. Okay. Now let's look at those various types of problems. Let's say that they don't know how to work out. Okay. Well, that's a good problem to solve, or they don't know how to eat right. So what a lot of people will do is they'll build some sort of info product or membership site or something which teaches people how to solve those problems. And yes, those are good problems to solve and people will pay you for them, but those aren't great recurring revenue problems because the second somebody actually gains that information, they learn how to bench press better, they learn how to lift weights, whatever that is, do they need to keep paying you till the end of time for the same information that they now understand? That's why membership sites, again, they're better than nothing. It's better than just a one-time purchase, but membership sites get less valuable out in the marketplace if you want to sell them versus something like, what's a consistent recurring problem that people also have in that space? Well, they need to eat healthy food all the time versus, let's say, a subscription box company where you're delivering fresh ingredients to people's doors on a regular basis, because that's a natural recurring problem that people have. We all need to eat 3, 4, 5, 6, or if you're like me, 9 times a day because I love protein, right? We all need to eat every single time, and our body resets that problem. That's a way better business to build a recurring product off of. What are problems that renew on a consistent basis? Accountability. People need accountability. So for the people who are watching this who are info product creators, you can still have the membership site, but add in more accountability type features in there, right? Because people need accountability all the time. They need motivation. Help them cook, help them get groceries delivered to their door. That's going to increase your stick rate. It will make you a lot more money. And then for a future investor, they're saying, you know what? That's a really solid business, because once people start subscribing, they never leave. And churn is one of the big killers of adding millions of dollars onto your revenue.
So let's say it's a $1 million per year business, one-time purchase versus recurring revenue. What's that look like during the exit and the sale?
Yeah. So let's say you have a business that's selling all one-time products. Okay. And there's no subscriptions at all, and it's making $1 million of profit. Well, oftentimes, depending on how the rest of the business is built, this is going to get what we call a 2x multiple, meaning that like they take the net profit you make and they multiply it out by 2 years. And so you may be able to sell that business for $2 million. $1 million profit, you sell it for $2 million. Yeah, that's pretty okay, right? But what if you had the same $1 million of profit, but instead it was recurring revenue? It was subscription revenue. Well, guess what? The market's going to pay a hell of a lot more money for that. They're going to give you at least a 5x or something like that. And that right there, $3 million. That's a huge difference for the same amount of money. This is why the frequency of purchase lever is so valuable. It's that $3 million a gap. Okay. So again, fastest and easiest, focus on recurring subscription revenue. This is sort of the 80-20 of any 20, I think, is like 96-4, if I've done my math right. This is the 80-20 of the 80-20 to really add millions of dollars of valuation onto your business.
So same amount of sales and $3 million more, that is definitely a good reason to put subscriptions. For the businesses that can't really do subscriptions or have a different model, are there alternative ways to do this?
Yeah, so listen, every single business out there can figure out how to build a recurring revenue and subscription product. 99% of people listen to me. They're like, yeah, that makes sense. And they figure out how to do it, especially when I start talking about the recurring renewable problems that happen regardless, like having to eat every day. But there's always that one guy out there who says, my business is different. I can't do subscriptions. All right, fine. I'll entertain it for just a second. Okay. One of the other ways to go about doing this is what we call a catalog model. And this is looking at your niche and saying, okay, what are the consistent problems that people have? What are the problems that are related to the one product that I have? Okay. How can I build additional products? I'll give you an example. In the business education space, actually, let's not do that one. Let's stick with the fitness one, right? So the first one might be like, how do I lift weights? Okay, great. So that's one problem, and you sell somebody that product, right? But once you start lifting weights, how do I stretch? Because stretching is going to be pretty important. You're going to get stiff because of all that lactic acid that's going in your business, or excuse me, in your system, right? That's another product you could do. How do I gain muscle without adding fat? That's another one, right? How do I cook high protein, healthy meals, et cetera, et cetera. And so you build out all these different adjacent problem products that you can build for people, and then you just try to resell them. But it takes a lot of work to do that. You have to constantly build out new packaging, new marketing, new funnels. This is a less efficient use of time and capital, but it's better than just this. It's better than this is the poor man's version of the recurring revenue business. I would not recommend doing the catalog model if you can avoid it. But if you say, listen, we can't do it, catalog model is better than just a single product by itself. But please just do the subscription model.
How many years of financials of the subscription model is enough to really increase the value of the business?
Okay. So in my business, I think what you're asking me is like, all right, so how do you, let's say you want to sell your business now for millions of dollars, you fix it, you've added recurring revenue, and they're like, is one good year of recurring subscriptions, is that enough? Is that going to add millions of dollars of valuation on my business? And the answer is no, because think about it from an investor's perspective. Remember, They're thinking risk and reward. And if they can't look at it and be like, you know what, this looks pretty consistent. I see like a common upward trend here as opposed to this one right here where it's like revenue's up a little bit, up, down, big spike, and then back down again. Are you going to pay millions of dollars for something like this? This is very risky. Instead, what you want to do, and this is just good business practice in general for regardless of how you run your business, is consistent upward revenue trend. So top line revenue, but more importantly, net profit increasing. So people, if you want to, when you're listening to this, if you want to sell your business, you need to have at least 3 years of consistent growth, preferably way more than that. And so it looks like a trend. It looks like a pattern and almost like a machine to somebody buying it. Plus, as you're running it, you get to make more profit, get to make more money. And who the hell doesn't want that, right?
Absolutely. And in your business, was it 3 years of growth, or what happened when you went to go for the sale?
Well, I got a screw loose, buddy, as you know, and we did 11 years straight. And so some of that is my personality of like constantly like wanting to beat myself. That sounded really weird. Constantly wanted to beat my previous record. There we go. More so than the previous year. So we did 11 years straight. I had a lot of financial goals and dreams for myself. I put pressure on myself. I wanted to see if we can continually make more money, solve more of our customers' problems, add better team members, just grow the company. And so I just would not allow myself to go backward. That's one of the biggest values that I brought to the company was the vision of growth. But here's the cool part about that. So for me, it was like this like personal like mission of growth that I wanted to see what could happen. I didn't know at the time though, when I was doing it, I was just like, I want to make more money every year and make a better company. But what I figured out was that 11 years of growth, like when investors saw this, they're like, oh man, this is a machine. Like this thing works. And so what ended up happening when I decided to sell it is that we got a bunch of interest in it. We actually had 7 people make offers on the business, which is pretty crazy because most people, when they go to sell their business, they're lucky to even get like one person interested and they end up lowballing them. But we had 7 offers and there was actually a bidding war because specifically of that consistent growth. People could see it and they're like, oh man, that thing looks good. I can trust this one.
Nice. And sounds like you worked hard for your business. And I know you taught the jazz piano. So for business owners that are operating in their business, how do they remove themselves so the buyers don't buy a job?
Yeah. So let's think about it like this. Okay. So what a lot of people will do is they're making pretty good money in their business, but the problem is that they're like the chief bottle washer and they're doing everything in their business. They make $1.5 million, $2 million net, but they're working 90 hours a week. They're literally doing everything. They're doing the sales, they're doing the marketing, they're doing the management, they're doing the fulfillment, et cetera, right? But here's the thing. I don't care how much money the business is making. Nobody is going to pay millions of dollars for your job, okay? If the business depends on you, you're the CMO, the salesperson, the COO, you're doing all the fulfillment, right? Everything depends on you. Buyer's like this dude right here. He's like, I don't know about that, right? Just too risky. The better way to do it is to get people who are running these things for you to systemize everything. We'll talk about how to do that in a few minutes later in the video, but this is significantly more attractive for somebody buying your business. And again, if you want to get top dollar, you want to add those millions of dollars on, you can't be the person who's running everything. The business can't be relying solely on you. You want to get great team members in all these positions because it's going to add a ton of value onto your business. You can get higher offer and this is, we're talking like millions of dollars of difference by having great team members in place.
So how does that affect the valuation?
Yeah. Let's look at this here. Okay. So think about it like this. Let's say you're in the CMO seat. And on the open marketplace, a CMO, let's say, is $200,000 worth of salary. And then with benefits and taxes and insurance, let's say it's $250,000 to have a CMO in place, a really good CMO. And if you're running your business successfully, you probably are a pretty good CMO. And let's say you're going to get a 4x valuation for your business. Well, $250,000 times 4x is $1 million. So a buyer says, well, yeah, you're doing all the marketing. You're in charge of it. I guess I'll buy your business, but we're going to need to hire somebody else to run this because, again, nobody's paying millions of dollars to own a day job. They don't want to do it. They're going to have somebody else do it. They're going to take $1 million off the valuation. So if your business was going to sell for $5 million, they're going to chop off $1 million off of it because they have to hire somebody. They got to pay for it. It's going to be less profit inside the business. They're going to take $1 million off. So now you're down to $4 million. Dang, wish I would have just had that CMO in place. What about the COO? Same problem. $200,000 for a great COO, another $1 million off, right? What about the chief fulfillment officer? Another $1 million off, right? What if you're actually running the point contacts inside your business and doing some of the fulfillment? Another $500,000 off, right? So buyers are going to deduct everywhere where they have to hire somebody to replace you. It's just a very bad idea to have you being like in every seat in the business. Instead, you get capable team in every seat, okay? And this protects that value there, right? Just like we're seeing right here. Every area, somebody is actually running the day-to-day. And so a buyer says, cool, I don't have to subtract anything on there. We've got great people in place. I'm going to pay top dollars for this.
So when you hire the people first, wouldn't that lower the net revenue for that year?
Yes and no. It just depends on how you do it. So what most people do, this is a common mistake people make. They're like, I'm going to pay $60,000 because my Uncle Ned, who was in jail for 97 years for selling hot TVs, he just got out, right? He knows about sales. He knows how to like sell, right? Uncle Ned will take a job, we'll pay him anything, or whoever, like some junior in place who actually really doesn't have the skills, but you can get him cheaper. Oftentimes, those people will actually lower the net revenue. In theory, you have somebody in place, but they're not very good. Those people need constant supervision. They make more mistakes. They work slower. Those people are actually a cost to the business. They don't actually increase the profit, and they eat up your time, which is even more of a cost to the business, right? But instead, if you actually get somebody who's a total rock star and pay them top dollar, those people are not a cost center. So you get that awesome CMO and you're paying $250,000. It doesn't lower the value of the business. Remember, you got a rock star in that position. They're going to be a value add to the business. They're going to be making more money based off of what you're paying them. And if you think like an investor right there, they're going to be making 3, 4, 5x off of what you're paying them in salary. So it's actually a profit lifter in the business, and the valuation of the business goes higher as well. Because they're going to ask about that when you go to sell your business and they start doing due diligence. Who's running these things, right? What have they built? What are their skill set? And if you can show like, listen, these guys are freaking amazing at what they do, that's very attractive. So you make more money while you're running it. You've got somebody you're paying extremely well, so they're going to be loyal to the company and to an investor. They say, man, this thing is awesome. We've got great people in place. I don't need to take on risk. Everybody wins in that place.
Nice. And what do you have to do to prepare the financials when you show it to the buyer?
Yeah, so this is a big mistake that people make. So listen, entrepreneurs, a lot of times we're more focused on like right brain creative side of stuff. We like to sell, we like to build products, we like relationships, we like to market, and we're less into like counting the beans and dotting all our I's and crossing all our T's. So oftentimes what you'll find is in many small businesses, their books are a total mess. It's enough to like submit things to their CPA at the end of the year, but they're not in good places, right? But from an investor's perspective, if you're showing books that are just like a total you-know-what show, total chaos, it's going to be really difficult to trust what you're saying. Like, yeah, I swear we're making $1 million per year, but I've got these ad backs back in. My wife did something once for the business, and her dog is an emotional support dog and needed a perm, and that's a write off that we had, and now we're not having like all this like gobbledygook stuff that comes in and out. Everything is very disorganized. You don't know where money is going, right? Like, think about it from a perspective of an investor. Like, would you buy something like that where you couldn't actually trust or prove that the revenue and the profit that's coming in is real? It was inconsistent? No, you wouldn't. So if you were even lucky enough to get somebody to make an offer, which is very unlikely with messy books, they're going to lowball you, and they're going to add all kinds of little like contingencies in the contract that make the valuation of the business significantly lower. You might get like 80% less for the business, and then they're only going to give you a very small amount of down payment, and then the business has to prove it out through an earn out afterwards. Those are bad deals. Instead, what you want to do is you want to clean up your books, and this is going to give you a premium from doing this. You're going to get buyers who are like, oh yeah, this is the real deal. I can see exactly where the profit centers are, where the costs are. Everything makes sense to me, and they can look at things, line by line, and everything makes sense. It builds a lot of confidence, and this is going to add a lot of value to your business. Now, sometimes people at this point, they're like, oh man, like I got to pay a lot of money to my CPA and a bookkeeper. It's going to be a pain in the ass. It might cost me a few $1,000s. Well, think about the math here. Like, okay, cool. So you pay $5,000 to have a bookkeeper come in and clean up your disaster and get a CPA to really make sure the books are clean versus adding millions of dollars of valuation to your business. Yeah, $5,000 versus millions, it's a no-brainer. The other cool benefit about it is that when you actually see your numbers and see what's going on, the old adage, like what gets measured gets improved. You're going to run the business significantly better while you own it. And if you never want to sell it, cool. You actually get to see more strategically what's going on a day-to-day basis, which is going to, again, make your business more valuable, even if you just own it and never sell it.
Nice. So you have the A players, you have the financials. From the legal perspective, what you need in place when you sell it.
Now, another thing that is really important to have while you own the business is clear contracts in place, because anybody who's buying a business, they're going to say, okay, well, who actually works for this business? Who's making the sausage or the sauce or whatever the hell it is on a day-to-day basis? And what they're going to want to see is they're going to want to see clear employment agreements, non-compete contracts, who owns the IP. For example, if you've got Chelsea making stuff inside your business, if you don't have clear contracts in place, does she own it? Do you own it? And so, a potential buyer would be like, it's unclear who owns things. Is Chelsea going to sue me later and say that she actually owns the products she made? So you just want to have these simple contracts in place. And not only is it good from an investor's perspective and build confidence for them, but it's also good for you as well. It sets clear boundaries and clear terms for the people who work with you inside the company. So, having terms in place outside of just like a handshake deal and trust me, it makes everything significantly better.
I think one of the mistakes I made with my first film was using the templates I found on the internet as opposed to actually hiring a lawyer because it missed some key clauses.
Yeah. So listen, like obviously AI and LegalZoom and a lot of those template-based services can write contracts for you. Now you can go that route, significantly less money. Good luck if you do that, versus working with a lawyer who actually understands contract law and employment law. And you might have to pay him $500 or $1,000 an hour, but this isn't like you have to pay them for 4 or 5 days and it's going to cost you $50,000. This is just a few hours of their time, ask you to build out some structural templates in place, and then just change a few clauses here or there depending on what the role is that you're hiring for. But you can kind of reuse the same contract language for 90% of the time. Totally worth it. Okay. Again, it's you got to think bigger picture instead of those like little tiny costs of, oh no, I got to pay a lawyer $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever it is, like a few $1,000s versus like adding millions of dollars of value on your business. Again, do the maths, people. Do the maths.
So when it comes to the marketing, what you do to prepare that for the buyer? Yeah,
that's a good question. So a lot of times when we start our business, we're like kind of bootstrappy, where we try something out and we try one channel and like, holy cow, it worked. Like people like it. Okay, I guess I'll like scale and build off of that. And we don't start with this like amazing, huge plan of systemization that happens. A lot of times it's just like, oh crap, that worked. That's great. So maybe you have this consulting offer that you put out in place and you start with Facebook ads or some sort of course or whatever it is you're doing. And you start with Facebook ads in the very beginning, it works. And you're like, okay, I'll spend some more money. And then you start kind of doubling down on one channel, which is great because you're growing your company, but it's also very risky for a potential buyer, even for yourself while you're running it, because you're literally just one algorithm away from completely destroying your traffic and your lead generation source in the business. Okay. What you want to do instead, and this is going to dramatically increase the valuation of your business, is you want to start adding a second traffic source in place. Ideally more than two, but at least a second source that's profitable. So the pros of that is when you have a second traffic source that's profitable, you get to make more money. Cool. You can buy more Bentleys or, buy more dog perms, whatever the hell you're into for spending your money in your free time or whatever, right? But also a more profitable business adds more valuation onto you're going to get more if you tried to sell it, and it de-risks it for a potential buyer, which is going to create more people interested in the business. They're going to pay more for it, or like I had in my case, you're going to get some sort of bidding war in place. So add a second traffic channel because it de-risks it. And I've been in this game for 16 years at this point, and I've been through so many algorithm changes. It's not a matter of if the algorithm changes, it's a matter of when the algorithm changes, and that second channel de-risks things for both you while you're running it and that potential future buyer as well.
When I hear people selling their businesses, like sometimes they're stuck in it for 2 years based on the contract, and I know you said yours was only 30 days when we talked before. What was the one thing that made you not be tied to your business after you sold it?
Yeah, so this is huge, okay? And this is one of the biggest levers you can pull while you're running the business. This is going to make your life a hell of a lot better while you own the business. It's going to make you a lot more money, and it's going to make it significantly more attractive to a potential buyer. So remember we were talking about like you doing everything inside your business, right? Well, what a lot of people are, they're like sort of like the rock star, the talent inside their thing. They're like, well, I know how to design an ad. I know the right way to do things. I know how it's my taste that knows how to design videos. It's my taste who knows how to do the landing page. I know how to talk to this contractor. I, right? The problem is your taste and your brain is not a business asset. If it's in your head, meaning like you're the only one who knows how to do it, and it dies with you, meaning like if you're not there, that kills the valuation of a business. A buyer's going to need confidence that the thing can run entirely without your special talent or whatever woo-woo aura you think you have. What you want to do to fix that is you want to start systemizing, writing down everything that you do inside the business, okay? Now, a lot of people listen to this and be like, oh God, that scares me. Like I'm just like a super right brain creative and I can't like systemize anything I do. I just got to feel it out. Listen, I felt that way as well. But what I discovered was that if I actually just kind of like depressurized it for myself and just did it in a really kind of simple way, it was very easy to write things down. So what I did, my very first version of SOPs, which is a acronym meaning standard operating procedures, just writing down everything you do inside the business, is I just screen recorded myself doing the activity. And that functioned as a version 1 of the business. And I just handed it off to an employee, said, hey, do this. And they'd get most of it right. Sometimes there'd be a couple things that needed to be tweaked they didn't understand. And that was just version number 2. So it doesn't need to be this like 400-page systemized document that's notarized and sealed. It can be just something as simple as like just a screen recording, or you filming yourself doing it on your phone, or you filming an employee doing the activity. It doesn't need to be complicated in the very beginning. It'll get a little bit better as you do it. When you hand it off to someone else, you can be like, oh, I didn't mention these 2 things I didn't think they'd make a mistake on. Cool. Shoot another 2-minute video of yourself on your phone just talking through it. Doesn't need to be perfect. It can be ugly. Just something in place where you're systemizing how you do things. Here's the other cool thing. Because you're actually doing stuff in your business, it's not like you have to take time out and do it. You can just do it, the things you do on a daily basis. Just press screen record, right? And you do this over the course of just a few months. And let's say there are 300 things that are needed to run the business on a regular basis. Well, if you do just a few of them per day over the course of a few months, that's like the business is systemized at that point. And there you go. There's your SOPs. And that's something you can hand off and say, here you go. We have clear systems in place, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer. You can run this thing without us. Now, I will mention there's some other benefits of systemizing everything. This actually makes less employee mistakes. When employees make less mistakes, there's more throughput through the business, which is more profitable. You make more money. It actually lowers stress for you if you're in some sort of management role. But also, like, listen, sometimes just writing things out, like seeing like, how did I make that decision? It actually makes me more efficient if I was running the business as well. So I make less mistakes and I'm even more valuable to the company. But again, we're not talking about us. We don't want to have us doing it, but it just makes everything better and more consistent for the company to run better.
Amazing. Can you tell me the difference between a business that gets capped at just a couple million versus something that could grow to significantly more?
Yeah. So let's talk about financing. Okay. So we want to sell our business for millions of dollars. And we think that there's some sort of magical investor out there who says, okay, I'm going to just give you $10 million cash out of my own pocket. That is usually not the case. What most investors are going to do is they're going to want to borrow money. They're going to want to de-risk it as much as possible, use as little of their own capital, and instead use financing to get leverage on it so they get a higher return. And one of the best sources of financing that exists is the SBA. But the problem with the SBA is that they're only going to loan money up to a certain point. And so they need to get additional investors in as well if you want to sell your business for above $5 million. And whether it be the SBA, a private bank, private financing, private equity, they're not going to give you that valuation you want when all these mistakes are in place. Okay. The SBA is going to cap it and you're not going to be able to get anything more, like 5 million tops if you're even lucky with all these problems. But when you have these things in place, again, everything we've talked about in the business, you can get SBA financing, and then those private investors who are savvy banks and understand, they're like, okay, cool. We want to see that their contracts in place. We want to see that there are clean financials. They're gonna feel a lot more confident. It's gonna be easier for an investor to get that capital, that investment money to buy your business. And when it's easier to get money, you're gonna have more people competing, which increases that valuation. And ideally, I'd love for you to get $50 million and not have that $5 million glass ceiling that caps everything.
This is a lot to take in, but good information.
Absolutely, man. I get it. So there's a lot of stuff. And dude, it was very, very, very difficult for me when I first learned this stuff. Like, most people aren't thinking like $1 million valuations when they run their business. They're just trying to keep the lights on. But what I've done is I had to learn all this stuff the hard way. So what I will do is I will actually give you the slides so you can just follow this step by step. I'll put it as a free download. You can grab it in the description and in the first comment below the video. All right, man. Cool. Thanks for chatting. Go make some money. Go sell your business for millions of dollars. Peace.